Welcome back to another episode in our tutorial course. Today we will look at backgrounds. We've already added the colors. We've blocked in the colors. These are not the final colors, but we are going to be looking at the background and why it is important to color the background first, and then worry about the individual characters. Um, so uh, let me just start out by explaining um, the reason why I color backgrounds first is because I used to color characters first for the longest time. I used to not even bother to draw a background at all. Um, but I've discovered that the more effort you put into backgrounds, the more you realize that they are the most important aspect of your entire drawing. Although you're telling a story with your characters, for example, here we are telling a story with with this Dementor-like Red Riding Hood, who is hunting, kind of hunting this poor wolf that is, has found this refuge, this temporary refuge under this behind this huge tree. So the story is very much told by the characters, but the background, I would say, plays an equal amount of an equally important role, if not even more important, because it sets the atmosphere. It sets the lighting. It tells you where the lighting is coming from. It tells you, what's the entire color scheme of the entire illustration. Everything that you're not even paying attention to, uh, unless you know what to look for. But that is why the background itself is the most important. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start out and color, add the proper colors to this background. What I want is a bluish color scheme, and this is a good time to look back on our reference photos. If you look at these, pretty much everywhere you have this light barely protrudes into the woods, except maybe here. But everywhere else, light is very is not apparent, is not very obvious. It's in the background. It's somewhere, kind of showing up, but very very subtle. Whatever the color scheme or the style, light is very subtle, and I want something very similar to that. I want a dark atmosphere, but at the same time, a kind of a playful atmosphere. This color scheme over here is my favorite one, and it's something that I want to emulate. But at the same time, something like this would appeal to me, and like this, something maybe some of these three I would like to emulate. So I'm gonna hide this once again. I'm gonna show this once again, and let's begin with the green. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna lock the transparency by clicking this lock, and it says lock transparent pixels. What it does is we can now only draw in the areas that have been already filled in. That's why we took the time to block in each color on its own layer, because now we have all of these layers, and all we have to do now is play around and find the proper colors. For example, I want something between like this blue and this green. Again, I'm colorblind, so it's very difficult. It can be very difficult for me to find good colors. But because I have this color picker, I know that somewhere between green and blue is what I'm looking for. Somewhere with a kind of a mid saturation to very saturated, but not all the way. Something over here, and a little bit dark is what I'm going to have. And I have locked the transparency to this layer, and I'm going to Alt backspace, which adds the color that I have in the foreground. If I would want to add the color that's in the background slot, I would hold Control and backspace. But if I'm holding Alt and backspace, it adds the color from over here. Now I'm not very satisfied with this. I want something that's more green and more saturated. Maybe something like this. Now if I go to the next level, which is the trees, again lock the transparency, and I know that I want something, some brownish, but close to blue, so it's almost purple, going to be almost purple. So I'm gonna maybe try this. No, this is way too... No, I think over here, back here. I'm gonna keep this one for a bit. I see it's just a matter of figuring things out and trying to play around with these. Maybe a little bit desaturated. Again, lock the transparency to trees level 2 and add that over there. Trees level 3. Make it even more. But no, wait. If light is going to come from there, it means they're going to be lighter in the background. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to select this layer here, this color, and add it like that. It kind of works. Let me look again at the colors over here. Let's take a look at these two. Yeah, so the colors, the trees that are closest to us are going to be darker. So I'm going to go again at the trees level 1, and I'm going to select a purple, but very, very close to gray. Yeah, that kind of works, doesn't it? I'm gonna have to work it up with this green over here as well. But I'm gonna take this color, make it slightly closer to red, and add it. Yeah, maybe. I would like to have it a little bit darker. Yep. And now a little lighter, and I'm going to trees level 3. I'm not quite sure about that one. And let's change this background color because it doesn't fit. Let's put this one. See, we don't have enough trees. I think that's the problem. And I'm going to take this color again. See, it's a lot of trial and error. I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter. I'm gonna lock the transparency. Oh, the wrong layer. So, what I can also do is Control U, and this pops up. Hue, the hue and saturation editor, and I'm going to make it a little bit lighter and a little bit more saturated. You can play around with this and change it into any kind of color you want. So again, you access this by holding Control U. Or you can also access it from image adjustments and hue saturation, but because it's already open it cannot show it properly. So I'm gonna select OK. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start using the layer masks, and that it's gonna be a little bit scary now, but you're gonna get used to it. We're gonna create a layer right on top the background layer, holding Alt. We're gonna click right in between these two layers, and what it does, this layer, layer number 7, is now a mask, is masked to is using the background layer as a mask. So when I'm drawing now, even though I haven't locked the transparency, it automatically just draws in this area. So I am going to take this color over here, and I'm going to use this brush, make it a little bit bigger, a little less hard, and I'm going to draw some more trees. Why am I doing that? Because I want something more in the background. I don't have enough. There's not enough to hide the light. It kind of works, yes. And I'm also going to take this color, the green color. I'm going to create a new layer again. Snap it to the mask of the background, and I'm going to draw in this bush that we've been talking about for a while, and I'm also going to add some bushes over here. All of these adjustments that I didn't really think about at the time, but because they're farther away in the background, I'm going to change the color so that you can tell that they're somewhere in the background. This is gonna come all the way up over here, and going back to layer number 7, yeah, this is very tricky, this part, because you have to pay a lot of attention to what you're doing, and when you start using working with masks, with layer masks, it begins to be a little bit it can become confusing, especially the more you progress with your layers, with the numbers of layers you have. Yeah, I'm starting to be a little bit it's starting to be a little bit better. Okay, so now that that is done, we're gonna come to the green layer. We're gonna snap one to this one, not a new layer to this, and we're gonna create a gradient. We talked about gradients in the beginning, so we're gonna click on the paint bucket tool and select the alternative tool. Whoa. And we're gonna go here, up here, click on this bar, and it gives you a few options, and I'm gonna select the second one, because what it does is, instead of the normal type of gradient from the foreground color that you have in the foreground swatch to the one that you have in the background swatch, I'm gonna select the second option, where it goes from the foreground color to 0 opacity. So basically this adds a layer of of this color that goes from one color to nothing. And you click, hold, move your cursor, and then release, and it gives you this effect, this gradient effect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm quite happy with the background. What I want to do at this point, I want to give the wolf and the Red Riding Hood colors that are similar to the color scheme. So even though we're not going to focus on them in this video, I want them to have colors that are let me see. Does it work better like this? I think so. And if I'm gonna use my lighting correctly, it's gonna look really good. Okay. See, being colorblind, I cannot tell which color this is. So by clicking on it, I can see that it's a purple-ish color. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it looks good, at least to my broken eyes. And let's see what we're gonna do with the Red Riding Hood. Maybe make it a little bit murkier. But then there's no more livelihood to... No more, you know, they're really damp, the colors. We're gonna see when we're gonna render the characters, we're gonna look into it more. But right now, what I'm more concerned with is the background. Yeah, it works. It works. Pale color and eyes, I'm gonna turn this darker as well. And when we get to the lighting, it's gonna look better. But see how much of a difference this makes? If we look at what we had before, I mean, we can't right now, but if we were to look at what we had before, it's a huge difference. And selecting colors that match with one another is a very key factor. Now, to your eyes, this may look not good at all, but to my eyes, it looks okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and snap another layer to the green mask, and I'm going to use a custom brush. I have quite a few of these over here. I'm gonna put this pack in an archive and link it in the description of this video in case you want it, so that you can experiment with the different brushes that I have accumulated over the years. And what I'm doing is basically just you know, playing around and adding texture to the grass, and yeah, it looks good. The reason why I can't draw over here is because it's on the background, on the background layer, which sucks because I didn't plan that very correctly. I'm gonna click on overlay. These are blending modes. I don't really know how to explain what each and every one of these does. I don't think any artist knows, but you're gonna have to test them out. Each and every one of these makes the colors interact in a different way with the layers beneath them. So you're gonna go through these, and you're gonna see that each and every one of these does something unique, and you're gonna find a blending mode that you're comfortable with and that gives you the effect that you're looking for, and you're gonna go for that one. And basically what I'm doing now is I'm adding texture and trying to make it look like it's grass and not anything else. I'm gonna add another layer, change the brush to this one once again, make it bigger, softer, even bigger. Select the black color and add shadows. Because we're in a dark corner of the forest, everything is gonna be in the shadows. And the branches all have shadows as well. It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult when you, especially when you have to kind of rush it so that you can explain better what you're doing. Yeah, that kind of looks okay-ish. I'm going to turn down the opacity a little bit. And what I'm doing now is I'm basically just playing around with brushes and shadows and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna speed this up, and hopefully we're gonna have a decent example to show. Now what I'm doing over here is I'm adding the shadow of the wolf, because I imagine that the light will be coming from over here between the two characters, and he will be casting shadow. And although it may not be 100% accurate, it does add a sense of realism to it. So I'm going to kind of add a little bit more texture to this tree over here, because I want it to pop out a little more. And then we're gonna add some highlights, and I'm gonna show you a little trick that makes a huge difference. So now we have something that kind of resembles texture on a tree. We're gonna add another layer. We're gonna make this really big brush, really low hardness. Add a dark color and just draw this over here. Maybe lower the opacity just a little bit. Add another layer and select a really light color and go in and add what is called rim light. What this does is it looks like what you're basically doing is you're coloring the edge of the tree and, you know, branching out here and there into variations of this line. And the reason why we're doing this is because this adds a very subtle but very powerful feeling that there's a light coming from behind the object that we're drawing. See? See how much of a difference it makes? I'm gonna delete this over here because I'm not happy with the way it looks. And I'm gonna do this for both of the trees, and you're gonna see afterwards. And now there's a huge difference. If you look at it, see how much of a difference this makes. Huge difference. I'm gonna do the same for all of the trees and just finish up the background, and we're gonna talk afterwards. Okay, so we're finally done with the background, kind of. It's been a nightmare. Now what we're gonna do is very important. We're gonna color the lines. And the way we do that is we go into the lines folder and select each individual folder, each individual layer, and select a color that would blend well with it. In the case of the trees, I would like to select a color that's lighter than its actual color, because if it would be dark, it would have to be black, and black is too dark. Doesn't that make any sense? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a really soft brush and go over it and alter the colors just a little bit. Over here, for example, I would like to have them dark to have it contrast with the texture of the branches and so on. And towards the end, I would like to have them even, let's try white. No, it doesn't work. I think it's good as it is right now. But over here again, make these darker in the middle. All you have to, everything you do, you have to keep in mind where the light is coming from. The light in this case comes from behind the trees and behind our characters. So it would make sense that everything towards the edge of the trees and towards the edge of the characters is lighter. And everything in the middle is darker because light does not reach over there. Okay, so this looks good over here. Let's make it a little bit smaller and play around with these colors over here. These we can make even lighter because they're farther away in the background and they're affected by light more. Now we're gonna go to the green lines. Again, lock the transparency. Select a color. Fill it in everywhere. And then make the necessary changes. Again, I filled it in with light, with a light variation, but I'm gonna add dark variations where the light does not reach. For example, here, everywhere around here, and maybe here. I think that was a bit too much. Yeah. And something like this. Yeah, this is it for the background. It was a huge journey, and I think this video is going to be really long, but I hope you understood what I tried to tell you about lighting and the importance of drawing and coloring the background first. Even though I sped up a lot of this because I didn't want this to be crazy long, the idea is the same. You gotta have everything coexist and everything tie in together because they're part of the same world. You cannot have a really saturated green for the leaves and a really grayish bark, or purple-ish as I imagine it is in our case. Everything has to kind of be part of the same color scheme. So bear that in mind while you're coloring. And I'm gonna make a few tweaks when I'm done with this video, but I'm gonna explain them when I get back next video. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you later.